we know that the US has some of the highest tuition fees, and most students go into crippling debt after they finish college. Well, without any guarantee of actually paying that debt with a well-paying job. There are
or even succeeding in their respective fields of work.
Exactly. Well, there are studies that show that people that finished college in the 50s and 60s had to work less time to pay off their student debt, in contrast with students nowadays that they have to, when they finish college, they have like a huge debt. Well, fortunately, that's only in the US, and here in Europe and Romania, we have both public universities and private, but the tuitions are not that high. Well, are you on? Will you adopt the same philosophy as rector of Danubius? Like, will you increase tuition fees? I mean, there are arguments for higher tuition fees.
The tuition situation in the States has really accelerated over the past 3 decades or so. I could tell you the figures that I was paying when I was an undergraduate, and it would make you laugh compared to what some of the fees are now, okay? And the increase in student indebtedness is really a huge national problem for us. It's one that probably is going to be addressed by the new administration, because one of the things that they're talking about is essentially eliminating student debt for many individuals who now borrowed money in order to go to college and can't repay it because of the economy. But there are larger issues that are involved, at least from my perspective. I spent 5 years out of the academy in what is the premier national higher education association in the United States. It's called the American Council on Education. And so that's kind of an overarching organization that protects the operations of about 3,000 or 4,000 colleges and universities across the country. So obviously student tuition was a big issue for us because it ties into the set of governmental relations and policies that exist that impact students' ability to go to college. So as college costs were rising, of course, we were continuously looking to try to find ways that the student aid levels, student support from the government and other sources was also rising, all right? So now we're at a tipping point, I think, and that's why you see the administration stepping in to maybe cancel student debt. But the part of that conversation that was important for me, and I think it plays out not only in the US, but around the world, is an understanding of why it's important for any national economy to invest in higher education in the first place, all right? We have a concept that we used to talk about when I was at the American Council on Education. It's called simply the greater good. Investments from individuals and governments and whatever sources in education ultimately improve the entire standard of living for whatever region or country that you're talking about. So we have an obligation, not just to ourselves, but to the country and to the future of any country that we're a part of, to try to find ways to invest in as many citizens gaining access to higher education as possible. That's particularly important in a knowledge economy. The more educated people you have, the more likely you are going to have economic improvement, not just for those individuals, but for all the other citizens of the society as well. So we have to find a way to balance that tension. No government has as much money as it wants to do all of the things that it wants. But we have to try and find a way to make the conversation one in which there's an understanding among government officials, among students, among common citizens, that investment in higher education is not just an investment in that person, it's an investment in the future of the entire country. So we want to keep tuition costs at Danubius as low as we can, because we want as many people as possible who have an opportunity to come and study so they can improve their lives, so they can improve the lives of others in their communities. Now, we're also, as a private institution, obviously in a situation where we have a balance sheet that we have to be careful about. Okay? We have to be able to pay the bills every month. So you have this ongoing conversation, this ongoing approach to finding ways in which you can find revenue. Most of that for us is going to come from tuition. But we also want to do some outreach to some of the corporations, the major corporations in the region, to help them understand how helping us ultimately is going to help them as well, because our graduates will come back to them to work in their companies, work in their corporations. Go ahead.
There's also European programs from the European Union that aid, I don't know, colleges and universities to offer more scholarships and to help more and more people from disadvantaged situations. So that could help too.
Absolutely.
And it could become a somewhat a huge trend in the following financial exercise to bring as many students as possible using European money and those from donor corporations that can then employ the young adults and the young professionals.
And not just young. And I want to make this, and I think this is what online instruction has shown us in some respect. Because if you're a person who is middle-aged, 40, 50, whatever, and for whatever reason you think you want to make a change in your life and you have to acquire a new set of skills, then you're a college student or potential college student also, all right? And we have to be as open to those folks as we are to the 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds, okay?
Yes, I agree.
University ought to be seen as an opportunity for personal transformation, for changing your life for the better. No matter what age you are, no matter what circumstance you're in, this ought to be a place that you see that you can go to expand your skills, to change your perspective, to do the things that you feel you're capable of doing in order to make life better for yourself.
Well, I have a great example of that. My mom wanted to go to college, but at 19 she had me, so she couldn't. But as I went to high school, she just enlisted into college.
Mm-hmm.
She finished college and then she did a master's degree. Well,
Yeah.
I haven't, so she's an engineer now. She's working. She's happy about it. Yeah, and she was thrilled at the possibility that she could actually finish college at, I don't know, 40-something years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. And that gets me back to one of the points I was trying to make earlier about the transition in the economy and the job market and so forth. So I'm talking to a young person here in the States a couple of months ago, and I'm the person has just gone into college, I think in the second or third year. I said, "What's your major?" And so she says, "Bioinformatics."
Whoa.
And I said, "What?" What is that? All right. So there are new fields of study, there are new technologies, there are new employment opportunities that didn't even exist a few years ago. Okay. So this is the point. This is where we are, trying to find ways in which we can look down the road, get some sense of what's likely to be available for folks, give them the skills and talents that they need in order to enter into those fields, even though they know at some point they're going to have to come back for future engagements, because even the fields that they're in are changing. So these are the opportunities that are presented to us. And again, we have to be very thoughtful and inclusive in having the conversations about how we make sure the structures best fit the needs of the people we want to serve.